Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Dinnerhe as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on the screen from Bialystocks titled Over Now. We also have translations with lyrics kindly provided by Dinnerhe to look at afterwards. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. We also have lyrics here so you can look through those if you like. Interesting use of head voice there with the bass and guitar on the left. Oh, beautiful. I love the use of keys and little tappy percussion parts. Lots of funk today. Great flurry with that synth there. I mean, that's just really fascinating, that little break there with the wow, that 16th note groove there. It was intoxicating. It's a really fascinating piece. There's traditional elements like the guitars, the basses, and the drums, and the vocals, obviously, but it's the way they're positioned. It seemed a little bit uneven until the other guitar line came in later on, and that's just classic development there, very smart. But also the use of the synths to kind of come and fill that space as the kind of the A and B of the part was great. Great first impression of Bialystocks. It really is an audio feast, isn't it? Guitar solo. This is fun. They just chose a really unusual guitar tone and screamed at you with it, and it was somehow pleasurable. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised that it worked, but it did. I think they hinted at the filtering of some of the elements earlier and that made it a little bit more sensible, but still, that's cool. I've just realized that my green screen is playing up after setting it up moments ago. I'll just be a sec. Green screens are fun. They're real fun. Oh, great shift on the groove and the pace there. Over now, it's over now. We have good times. We had good times right ahead. Fascinating. Let's have a look at the lyrics. I'm just going to put them here because I have a camera underneath where this is and I cannot see past the camera, so apologies if the placement of this is a bit weird, but we've got, without a guide through difficulties, even tonight if I yawn, I'm not free. It's not a lie. It's absurd, but if I could express my days countless times, it's foolish. I can sing about such things any times. The washing machine runs as usual, and as a superstition, there's music in my mind it won't dry. I don't know why. That's fascinating. I'm not sure why that's the case. I know that the washing machine is a figurative thing. Oh, if I could wash away the present countless times, it's fantastic. I can sing about even the most mundane things. Okay, I think I understand this, but I'm not quite sure. We're gonna try the conclusion. So this is the conclusion of my review of this track from Bialystocks, titled Over Now, off of their EP Tidepool. If you enjoyed this song, please do check out the rest of the EP. I'm sure it's fantastic. What do I think this track is about? I think it's about, at face value, it's about someone who has gone through a relationship breakup, or they've had some experience or interaction with another, and they are coming to terms with it. The consequences of it, I suppose, you know. The line where they used to hum a thing and then now all they can do is make it resonate. So they had these memories of this person. I think they're trying to drown out the effect that this person had on their lives, their existence, but they just can't do it. They are unable to get rid of this person's influence, and they are usually someone who can get out of these situations. They can pick themselves back up, but they just can't this time, because of reasons. I think at the end, they're perhaps looking at the fact that they had good times ahead. And the washing machine is simply a way of them kind of trying to forget that it occurred, or they're trying to bring other stuff in. And they're talking about how they'll both continue regardless of whatever the consequences are of whatever they're trying to accomplish here. It fascinates me. I think that it's really well played. I think that they clearly have a good sense of the storytelling, and it's something that I'll be thinking about for the rest of the day. The vocals were great. We were comfortable within our vocal range here. Nice use of hidden chest voice. Lots of the upper range stuff that was kind of fluffy sounding, and I think that suited the mood of the almost dreamlike ambience of it, with all the fuzzy, dreamy, reverb-laden elements of the mix. It was good. I think that some of the sharper elements in the composition brought it back down to earth and established an equilibrium, but outside of that, I believe that this was well sung. We sang in a way where it was relatively neutral and accessible, yet at the same time, it gave hints of someone genuinely struggling with the situation. I could kind of relate to that as a listener, hearing their really mature take on it, as if they're trying to let us in on the pain or the difficulties they're suffering through. It was almost very sobering, you know, to have that realization that things will continue regardless of the pain that you're in, and you either fix it or you don't. You've got a limited amount of time, and it's about, regardless of whatever someone else is to you, the clock just keeps going, you know? I'm not entirely sure if I do have the definition of the track entirely sorted, but I did my best with it. I think the vocals, to the best of my definition of it, suited it well. The guy's a great singer, very charismatic, and was very eloquent as well. It was lovingly textured and well done. The song at 3 minutes 30 is well within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. I like it when songs are this length because it encourages listeners to hear it through. I think when songs are too long, especially from a musician or a band that they haven't heard before, there can be a little bit of trepidation, because you're basically saying to that person, hey, you don't know me, but you should give me at least 5 minutes of your time, when there are millions of songs and lots of them are shorter, and there's less of a perceived cost to listening through that. So to kind of become a little bit less cynical about it, I think that this was incredibly well done with the structure of it, revolving around the verse, chorus, contemporary placements that we have nowadays. But there were solo sections and lead parts, like the guitar solos that we had, which were stunning. I liked the tone of them and how almost twisted they were, as if to reflect the struggles and cataclysms going on in the inner turmoil mentally. I think that was great. In addition to that, outside of the structure, there was very sort of smooth transitions between parts, and we never stayed on one thing for too long. And I think the combination of that, alongside the development of the instruments from simply starting with the bass elements, if I'm not mistaken. If we go back to the start really quick, we had the keys, and then we had the bass, and then we had the guitars come in a little bit, like the glissando with the piano at the beginning. We had hints of what was going to come initially, but we didn't give everyone everything until that chorus section hit. And I like the fact that we're teasing the listener without having too much intro core, having the vocals guide us along for context, and then boom, we're rewarded with everything at once. I think that's a very satisfying way to do things. The drums were fantastic. They sounded nice and live and full of energy, and I appreciate the fact that at the same time they never overplayed. They pocketed to an extent. Any fills were appropriate for the groove instantiated with the rest of the elements within the mix, within the arrangement. They clearly knew their way around a kit, and it was played to the dynamic extent that was required for. Basically, they had a great chemistry with the rest of the other band members and knew how to be appropriate for the mood of the part of a song. They kept the tempo well. The bass line was fantastic. I liked the quarter note accents they had there, or the eighth note accents there, whichever way works. And whilst they stayed around the root notes, they did also explore a little bit occasionally, and I think that was fantastic. And the guitars on the left side were nice and punchy and bright, without being too intense, and I think that offered a relative level of equilibrium there with some of the heavier stuff that was maybe spoken about within the vocal parts, especially in the verses and such. The keys there were well performed, very comfortable across the instrument. Interesting use of triads, and we may have had some extensions occasionally, but any of those came from the layering of parts of the arrangement there. The lead guitars, I should add, obviously, there was a lot of movement around the fretboard there. We were comfortable within our scale shapes and key signatures, and it was well voiced. It was never a lot more than what was going on with the vocals. I think they tried to keep a similar level of technicality to that. I think that was smart, because if you have all the instruments trying to sort of stick together, and you then have one thing acting like it's an ego project, that can be a little bit off-putting. So I'm glad that we showed some restraint there. I think in addition to that, we had a situation where, wow, my green screen really doesn't want to behave itself. I think ultimately the combination of the various elements put together left me feeling like this is a band that is really proficient on their instruments and clearly understands music theory and composition, and knows how to create a short form track that captures the imagination of the listener and keeps you moving forward through it. It envelops you into their world, and it's a very effective start to an EP, and I'm not surprised that they've gotten almost 1 million plays on this track. It's very well done. I think the theme of the track sounds contemplative, it sounds introspective. It sounds like there is an inner turmoil and struggle, especially in those guitar sections, but it also tries to balance it out and look at things from a more realistic perspective as opposed to a purely emotional one. I think this is a person trying to come to terms with what's occurred rather than trying to act out on it. And that's what the music sounded like to me, with the use of the well-balanced major and minor triads without too much complexity to the overall vibe of it harmonically. Any sharp bits were deliberate, and I think that the use of the really fuzzy synths coming with the slower text and etc. is like the thoughts whirling around in your brain, and ultimately very satisfying, even if you could tell they were going through some stuff. I mean, finally, the studio recording, mixing and mastering was done well. I'm really happy with how they voiced themselves there. The vocals sounded really present in the mix. There was filtering on the vocals as well occasionally, so like we didn't have everything the same way of expressing it, at least tonally, but I think that was a smart thing to do, because if you have the same sound for something the entire track, you can get too used to it. So I'm glad that we experimented with different tonalities and textures and timbres. The instruments like the drums and the bass and the guitar most of the time sounded very kind of raw, like they weren't too over-processed, which I appreciate. It makes them sound a little more grounded. The synths with reverb layers and a little bit of kind of airiness and mistiness to them, which was smart. It sounded warm and fuzzy, and that was great. Things were well balanced in this frequency spectrum. There were no resonant frequencies. Things were niched well. And it was nice and wide in the stereo field, so things were nicely balanced there. That was great. We didn't sort of like limit the experience of the listener by having things sort of too far into the center or too far to the sides. In fact, again, with things like the guitar being put on one side and then the keys kind of coming in on the other, to fill it, if things didn't make them seem more balanced, was smart from a development perspective and the arrangement and composition part. But ultimately, I think that when you've got your balancing and your frequency spectrum sorted and things are leveled well and the instruments sound like they've been well recorded and there's been good takes made, you just need to have dynamic range, which has had things weren't the same loudness all the time. There was variation there. And finally, it was nice and low without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was great. I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from Bialystocks titled Over Now, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via the various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.